Be sure to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button and scroll down and get on our mailing list. Why? Because every now and then, from time to time, for reasons I don't understand, YouTube has issues with our videos. So to make sure you don't miss anything, get on our mailing list. Also, you see that big donate button, hit that, throw a little something in the tip jar to make sure you still get hard-hitting, honest shows. And remember, Larry with epoch.com, Larry with epoch.com. Based on what we know from the Twitter files about the suppression of conservatives and conservative content, let's revisit what former President Barack Obama said last April at Stanford. You know, the school that suggested we ought not use the word American. Obama condemned the spread of what he called the raw sewage of misinformation.
You just have to flood a country's public square with enough raw sewage. You just have to raise enough questions, spread enough dirt, plant enough conspiracy theorizing that citizens no longer know what to believe. Once they lose trust in their leaders, in mainstream media, in political institutions, in each other, in the possibility of truth, the game's won.
Well, this is quite extraordinary from Obama, who along with his party pushed and continues to promote blatantly phony narratives, half-truths, and flat-out lies. Does the raw sewage include when President Obama falsely said the Cambridge police acted stupidly, that if I had a son he looked like Trayvon, and that racism is in America's DNA? Or when in a speech before the United Nations, Obama invoked the lie of Ferguson when he spoke positively about Black Lives Matter, a group founded upon the lie that the police engage in systemic racism against blacks, and a group that after the death of George Floyd encouraged 4 months of deadly violent protests, even though the lead black prosecutor of the trial of the officer Derek Chauvin, in his opening statement, said neither the police nor the Minneapolis PD in general were on trial. And the prosecutor, again, he was the lead prosecutor, never argued that the officer defendant treated Floyd unlawfully due to Floyd's race.
But one of those things that this case is not about all police or all policing. You will learn from Chief Arredondo when he comes that police officers have difficult jobs. They have to make split-second decisions. They sometimes have to make split-second life and death decisions. In this trial, you're going to meet any number of the men and women from the Minneapolis Police Department who do a fantastic job. They're committed, take very seriously preserving the sanctity of life. I mentioned already Commander Katie Blackwell, Sergeant Kerry Yang, Officer Nicole McKenzie, to name a few. This case is about Mr. Derek Chauvin and not about any of those men and women, and it's not about all policing at all.
Does the raw sewage of misinformation include Obama inviting to the White House over 70 times the race-hustling owl, no justice, no peace Sharpton, a demagogue who became famous by falsely accusing whites of raping a black teenager? Does the raw sewage of misinformation include candidate and President Joe Biden, who about Charlottesville insists that President Donald Trump said there were good Nazis and bad Nazis on both sides, when Trump clearly and specifically was talking about the debate on whether there should be a Confederate monument in the public square?
And remember what the president said when asked? He said there were, quote, very fine people on both sides.
And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
What about when Hillary Clinton, Democrat new House Minority Leader Representative Hakeem Jeffries, and the late Representative John Lewis all referred to Trump as either so-called or stolen or illegitimate?
As I've been telling candidates who have come to see me, you can run the best campaign, you can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows.
Was it raw sewage when Jimmy Carter, the former president, said Russia put Trump in office? Does raw sewage include Hillary Clinton claiming that Trump about COVID said, drink bleach?
So many women who are unapologetic.
Yes.
But you can't run for office and be unapologetic.
Not yet. Not yet, no. Now, men can be, because we just had a president who never admitted a mistake, who never accepted responsibility.
Even as we were having a pandemic, killing thousands of Americans a day at a time.
But President Trump says he created the vaccines, and he deserves credit for that.
Well, you know what? He did. He did launch a program that was very
Operation Warp Speed.
And you know what? If he'd had a professional, acceptable response to the rest of the pandemic, not telling people to drink bleach and the other stuff that he did, I think he would
to wear a mask.
Yeah, and you know, nearly dying and getting out of the hospital to drive around so that people could see that he was still alive. I mean, if he had. If
he cared more about public health than his own performance.
Yeah, he would have gotten credit. He would have gotten credit that the government that he was currently the head of deserved.
Does the raw sewage include when Biden claims he got arrested trying to see Nelson Mandela?
I came back from South Africa trying to see Nelson Mandela and getting arrested for trying to see him on Robben Island. He was in prison. I had the great honor of meeting him. I had the great honor of being arrested with our UN ambassador on the streets of Soweto trying to get to see him on Robben Island.
Does the raw sewage include when Biden says he was raised in the black church?
But here's the deal. The reason I'm running is you're looking at it right here. No, I really mean it. I got involved, most of you don't know me well, but I got involved in public life because when I was about the age of the guy standing over there, I got involved in the civil rights movement. My state is a state that was segregated by law, and we have the 8th largest black population in the United States of America as a percent of population. And my passion was ignited when I saw what was happening when we moved down from a place called Scranton, Pennsylvania. We had very few minorities in that city, but I moved down to Delaware when I was in 3rd grade, a little town called Claymont, and what I found out was that there was a significant African-American population, but guess what? They weren't able to go to school, the places that we went to school. And I remember asking my mom, what was that all about? And she explained to me, I thought, how can that be? And so I got engaged. I never planned on running for public office. I love reading biographies of me now about how I knew I was going to run for the United States Senate. I knew I was going to run for president. I didn't know that at all. But I got my education, Reverend Doc, in the black church. Not a joke. Because when we used to get organized on Sundays to go out and desegregate movie theaters and things like that, we'd do it through the black church.
Never mind, church members say they never saw him. By the way, does this look like a man who was raised in the black church? About this time, Biden wished that Herschel Walker won the Senate race in Georgia. The man has more soul than he could control. Now, does raw sewage include the decades that Biden insisted, without evidence, he desegregated restaurants and movie theaters in Wilmington, as you just now heard? Or when Biden, on at least 2 occasions, publicly and falsely claimed that his first wife was killed by a drunk driver? Or when Biden falsely claimed he finished in the top half of his law school class?
What law school did you attend, and where did you place in that class? And the other question is, could you quickly, I think
I probably have a much higher IQ than you do, I suspect. I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. In the first year in law school, I decided I didn't want to be in law school and ended up in the bottom 2/3 of my class, and then decided I wanted to stay, went back to law school, and in fact ended up in the top half of my class. I won the International Moot Court competition. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only need 123 credits, and I'd be delighted to sit down and compare my IQ to yours if you'd like, Frank.
Actually, he finished near the bottom of the class. According to CNN, he was next to the bottom. Rudy Giuliani said, well, that guy died. That made Biden go to the bottom. What's that? The great Aldersky has in his baby brown libertarian fingers a pair of MyPillow My Slippers. Yes, I do, but you don't. You know why? Because you haven't called the number on your screen. Call the number on your screen or go to MyPillow.com and make sure you use promo code ELDER. There are over 100 products. Count them, 100 products, including the pillow that started it all, the MyPillow, or is that redundant? These come in different sizes. You've never slept on anything more comfortable in your life. And don't forget, this is the 6-pack towels that work, meaning towels that actually absorb the water. Have you noticed? You go to these stores, they got these fluffy towels, they look good, they feel good, but they don't work. They don't absorb the water. These absorb the water, and they come in different colors. Also, this is the Giza Dream bedsheet. Giza is in Egypt. Never been there? Finest cotton in the world. Mike went all around the world to find the best cotton, found it right in Egypt, in Giza. These come in different colors. Mine is white because, after all, I am the black face of white supremacy, but you're not. They come in different colors and they come in different sizes because, guess what? Beds come in different sizes. So call the number on your screen or go to MyPillow.com and be sure to use promo code ELDER. Now, does the raw sewage include the dismissal of the Hunter Biden laptop story by 50 former intelligence officials days before the 2020 election as, quote, having all the earmarks of a Russian disinformation operation, end of quote?
Biden's secret emails.
A really fishy story.
The Post claimed that the emails were found on a laptop computer that was brought to a repair shop in Delaware in the spring of 2019.
The FBI is now investigating whether those alleged Hunter Biden emails are actually connected to a larger foreign intelligence operation.
They may be related to a foreign intelligence operation.
Foreign intelligence operation.
Foreign intelligence.
Foreign intelligence.
Foreign intelligence operation.
For all we know, these emails are made up.
The information found on the laptop may be part of a Russian disinformation campaign.
Part of a Russian disinformation effort.
Described by many intelligence experts as having hallmarks.
All the hallmarks of a Russian
disinformation. Russian disinformation
campaign.
This is a classic example of the right-wing media machine.
Does raw sewage include Trump colluded with Russia? That Biden's son Beau died in Iraq? That according to Democrats, Trump committed insurrection, and that according to Biden and other Democrats, 5 police officers died at the Capitol building on January 6th, when in fact, none died on that day. Does the raw sewage of misinformation include the assertion that Georgia's new voting law, as Biden claims, is worse than Jim Crow? It's Jim Eagle.
This makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle.
Never mind, Georgians voted in record numbers. What about how the 2-time failed Democrat Georgia gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams insists she lost the first time due to voter suppression?
And despite the final tally and the inauguration and the situation we find ourselves in, I do have one very affirmative statement to make. We won.
Without voter suppression, Stacey Abrams would be the governor of Georgia. Andrew Gillum is the governor of Florida.
You refuse to concede and say that you lost. Do you stand by that decision today?
Absolutely. The election was not fair. The process was not fair.
If Stacey Abrams doesn't win in Georgia, they stole it. It's clear. It's clear.
I think that Stacey Abrams' election is being stolen from her.
It was not a free and fair election.
Brian Kemp stole the gubernatorial election from Georgians and Stacey Abrams.
But will I say that this election was not tainted, was not a disinvestment and a disenfranchisement of thousands of voters? I will not say that.
What about DHS Secretary Mayorkas' emphatic claim that the southern border is secure when the numbers of illegal aliens entering our southern border has shattered records, with 250,000 last month alone, a historical record?
The activity here in the Del Rio sector exploded over the weekend. In just a 24-hour span yesterday, we had more than 2,200 illegal crossings. That is one day in just one sector here at the southern border. And take a look at this video we shot today. It has been storming and raining and windy all day long, but it hasn't slowed anything down. This was this morning, a large group of 200 crossing illegally in the elements. It didn't stop anything. This was predominantly single adults from Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, all turning themselves into Border Patrol. But take a look at what we saw yesterday. Look at this drone video. We saw more than 500 people cross in a single 1 hour span. That includes this group you're looking at of 300 people. Again, predominantly single adults. They're coming in from all around the world, Central and South America, some from Asia, some from Africa. You'll see many of them dressed very well, waiting with their smartphones for Border Patrol to process them. And then you'll see some of them even walked out to a nearby highway, almost getting on the road before Texas DPS troopers stopped them. Then take a look at this third piece of video. 2 more groups we saw yesterday, totaling more than 200 migrants. Again, almost all of them single adults. We are no longer seeing those mass family units like we saw last summer. Just to put it in perspective, there have now been more than 400,000 illegal crossings here in the Del Rio sector just since October. That's up double from the same time last year.
Does the raw sewage include the perception that Trump was the first to push the so-called Obama birther lie when it was Hillary Clinton's 2008 campaign that did so?
For Hillary Clinton to come out and criticize anybody for spreading the rumors about Barack Obama, when it all started
on 60 Minutes,
when it all started with her and her campaign passing things around in the Democratic primary. Rich, now listen.
He says he is.
The Republicans are wrong for doing what they're doing. This started with Hillary Clinton, and it was spread by the Clinton team.
We're just telling
back in 2008.
I don't even know.
That is the truth.
Harold,
I don't believe. But Nika, you can't tell me to stop when the two of you are making comments. It'd be different if you have if there's a basis, an actual evidentiary basis for what you're saying, then I would agree with.
Well, that they're the ones that spread it in 2008.
That spread what in 2008?
That Barack Obama. Barack Obama may not be a Christian.
Well, we should ask Heilman this question because he's the official historian of the 2008 campaign.
I don't recall that, but if you're telling me that was the case, I just don't recall.
John Heilman?
It was the case.
It was the case. Thank you, John Heilman.
And didn't she go on 60 Minutes and not actually say no? She said, well, he says he is.
I'm offering my rule.
What was that?
I'm affirming the Scarborough-Brzezinski.
Does raw sewage include Obama's claim his administration had no major scandals, as if the Clinton basement server and clear violation of the Espionage Act, among other scandals, was a bump in the road? Or when, about the server on which Hillary sent and received classified information, FBI head James Comey said she lacked the intent to break the Espionage Act, even though intent is not required? Does the raw sewage of misinformation include the claim by Democrats that the Dobbs decision that overturned Roe v. Wade outlaws abortion when it simply sent it back to the states where it was for all but the last 50 years or so of our nation's history? Does raw sewage include Democrats parroting the lie that the rich don't pay their fair taxes, when in fact the top 1% pay 40% of all the federal income taxes? Does it include when Al Gore in 2006 said, unless drastic measures to reduce greenhouse gases are taken within the next 10 years, the world will reach a point of no return, end of quote? Does the raw sewage include when Obama AG Eric Holder referred to voter ID as pernicious racism, even though the majority of blacks support voter ID? What about when Biden called MAGA Republicans semi-fascists? Or when Hillary called half of Trump supporters deplorable and irredeemable? Or when Hillary, as mentioned, called 2016 stolen, but never has been accused of promoting, wait for it, the big lie? Does raw sewage include candidate Obama's assertion that working class Midwesterners, quote, cling to guns or religion or antipathy to people who aren't like them, or anti-immigrant sentiment or anti-trade sentiment to explain their frustrations, end of quote? Seems to me, before complaining about raw sewage, the Democrats should simply empty out some of their own trash. And that's the elder statement. You can always leave a message. 888-971-7243, 888-971-SAGE. Make sure, as I said earlier, your message is under 59 seconds. And por favor, no profanity. I'm Larry Elder. This has been the Larry Elder Show for Epic Times. Remember, we've got a country to save. I'll see you next time.